What would you do if a billionaire tested you before even speaking and underestimated your heart, skill, and courage? Ethan Blackwell, a billionaire, lay sprawled on his massive leather bed, pretending to sleep, his chest rising slowly in a calm rhythm, while around him the mansion was quiet, except for the soft hum of air conditioning and the distant city lights flickering through the tall windows. Marcus Young, a 10-year-old black boy, the son of the maid who had worked in the mansion for over a decade, crept silently into the room carrying a tray with breakfast, careful not to wake the man he had seen as intimidating and distant for most of his life. The boy's small hands shook slightly, but he held the tray steady, knowing that any wrong move could bring a scolding from the servants or even anger from the billionaire, who was rumored to have no patience for mistakes, especially from children like him. Ethan's lips curved faintly into a smirk even as he remained perfectly still, pretending to sleep, watching the boy from beneath heavy lashes, studying every twitch, every hesitant step, every nervous glance, and his mind calculated silently, curious to see what the boy would do when he thought no one was watching. Marcus placed the tray gently on the nightstand, glancing at the sleeping figure with awe and fear, and whispered a polite good morning, though he knew no reply was coming, yet his voice carried the weight of innocence and determination, the kind of courage that comes from years of hard work and small responsibilities that children his age should never have to bear. He noticed the crisp sheets, the gold-plated lamps, the luxurious surroundings, a world so different from his own, yet he reminded himself silently that he deserved to be there as much as anyone, that his worth was not measured by skin or wealth but by heart and honor, and as he stepped back, he accidentally knocked the tray slightly, making a small clatter that echoed across the marble floor, and Ethan's eyes opened slightly, piercing and sharp, though his face remained still. Challenging Marcus silently to finish his task without fear. Marcus froze for a second, gulping down his nervousness, then smiled softly and completed the task perfectly, adjusting the tray, folding the napkin neatly and standing straight, his 10-year-old heart beating fast but proud, unaware that the man in the bed had been testing him every step of the way, gauging respect, intelligence, and composure before even speaking a word. Ethan finally exhaled slowly, a small laugh escaping him, knowing the boy had passed the first unseen test, and in that silent room, a connection formed between the billionaire and the child that neither money nor status could define, a moment that would teach lessons about respect, courage, and the underestimated power of those people the world often ignored. And if you want to see what Marcus does next that leaves Ethan Blackwell frozen in shock, make sure you subscribe and comment courage to witness the surprising moment when skill and heart outshine privilege. Marcus Young felt a rush of pride as he watched Ethan Blackwell sit up slowly in the massive bed, finally acknowledging the boy with a faint, unreadable smile, and Marcus realized that courage sometimes meant standing still while being observed, judged, and tested. Yet he refused to shrink back because he had been trained by his mother, the maid, to act with dignity even in the face of giants, and the room seemed to shrink as Ethan's piercing gaze scanned every detail of the boy, the tray, the posture. The way he held himself, as if he belonged despite being 10, and despite being someone the world often overlooked. Ethan leaned forward slightly, still silent, letting the tension stretch, curious to see if Marcus would flinch, and Marcus, feeling his small hands tighten at his sides, reminded himself to breathe slowly, each breath a declaration that he was more than what anyone assumed. And then he spoke softly, asking if Mr. Blackwell wanted tea or juice, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him, and Ethan's faint smirk returned, because even in that simple question, the boy showed patience, clarity, and an instinct for observation that many adults lacked, traits Ethan had learned to value after decades of navigating both business and people who underestimated him. Marcus placed his hand on the tray again, adjusting it slightly, noticing that Ethan's eyes softened a fraction as he nodded, signaling approval without a word, and the boy felt a spark of confidence ignite, knowing that a man so powerful had recognized his composure. Yet Marcus also sensed that the real challenge was only beginning, that earning respect from someone like Ethan required more than one perfect delivery. It required courage, intelligence, and honesty all at once. Ethan finally leaned back, his arms folding across his chest, letting out a slow, measured laugh, the kind that carried authority and amusement together, and he asked Marcus a question about his favorite subject at school, a simple test to see if the boy could think clearly under pressure, and Marcus responded carefully, explaining his love for math and problem-solving, his words precise, his tone polite yet confident. And Ethan's eyebrows lifted slightly as he realized this boy was not only respectful, but sharp, a combination rarely seen at 10 years old, especially in someone who had grown up in a world that had tried to limit him before he even started. Marcus felt his heart beat faster, not from fear but from pride, knowing he was being recognized for his true self, and Ethan's smile widened faintly, impressed by the boy's poise and honesty, and then he spoke in a calm voice, telling Marcus that in life, some tests were invisible, some challenges silent, and the ability to face them without flinching often defined the strongest people. And Marcus nodded, understanding fully the lesson being offered, a lesson that money could not buy. A lesson about courage, respect, and the quiet strength in being underestimated, yet rising above it. And if you want to see what Marcus does next that leaves Ethan Blackwell completely frozen in awe, make sure you subscribe and comment, respect, to witness the next moment where heart, skill, and intelligence triumph over privilege and assumption. Marcus Young stood quietly in the luxurious room, his small frame tense yet composed as Ethan Blackwell leaned forward, studying him with a mix of curiosity, skepticism, and unspoken challenge. And Marcus knew this was no ordinary morning, that every movement, every glance, every breath was a test, yet he felt the courage his mother had instilled in him flow like fire through his veins, steadying his heart and sharpening his mind. Ethan's mansion, with its towering windows, marble floors, and golden fixtures, felt smaller somehow, as though the boy's presence expanded the space with the quiet power of someone who refused to be intimidated, and Marcus could see the faint lines of thought crossing the billionaire's face, measuring, judging, wondering if this small child could match wit with patience, skill with composure, and honesty with courage, while outside the city roared and hummed unaware of the drama unfolding in a single room high above the streets. Marcus took a careful step closer to the tray, noticing the subtle details of the breakfast he had prepared, ensuring everything was perfectly aligned, the napkin folded precisely, the juice untouched yet within easy reach, and Ethan's eyes followed every move, icy yet attentive, revealing that the first test was not enough, that he now sought the boy's ability to think independently, to act confidently, to respond to the unexpected without fear. The boy's hands were steady, though his heart raced, and he spoke softly, suggesting adjustments to the arrangement to prevent spillage, explaining each choice with logic and calmness, his voice carrying both respect and the quiet authority of someone who had learned to survive in a world that often misjudged him before even seeing his potential. Ethan's smirk deepened, amusement creeping into his stern features, but beneath it, a spark of admiration flickered, because Marcus was not only intelligent but perceptive, noticing the unspoken rules of the room, the tension in the air, and the silent question that hovered between them: who would truly measure courage and who would only assume it? The billionaire then leaned back, testing the boy further with questions that seemed simple. What would you do if the tray tipped? How would you calm someone upset? What would you do if someone questioned your worth? And Marcus answered each thoughtfully, calmly, demonstrating insight, resourcefulness, and moral integrity beyond his years. And Ethan, listening quietly, felt a rare pause, a freeze in his usual certainty, because he recognized that the boy before him possessed something money could not buy. Something that had been underestimated simply because of his age and background. Marcus noticed the faint smile forming on Ethan's face, subtle yet undeniable, and he felt a quiet triumph, knowing he had not only survived the test, but impressed, challenged, and earned a sliver of trust from the man who ruled with influence, experience, and wealth, yet had underestimated the courage of a child. The moment stretched, electric, unspoken, yet filled with meaning, and Ethan finally exhaled, nodding slowly as he acknowledged Marcus's composure, patience, and brilliance, while Marcus realized the true lesson: that dignity, respect, and intelligence could pierce prejudice, that courage was not loud but deliberate, and that even the smallest person could leave giants frozen in awe if they refused to bow to fear. And if you want to witness what Marcus does next to leave Ethan Blackwell completely speechless, Make sure you subscribe and comment. Courage wins. To honor the bravery, skill, and quiet wisdom of a boy proving that heart can outshine privilege in every test life throws before you. Marcus Young stood taller in the massive room as Ethan Blackwell leaned forward fully now, no longer pretending or testing, his expression a mixture of astonishment, respect, and newfound humility, and Marcus felt a quiet power swell in his chest because he had passed every test not by deceit or luck, but by patience, courage, and honesty that no wealth could overshadow. Ethan finally spoke, his voice calm but firm, acknowledging that the boy had outshined expectations, teaching him a lesson that no money or status could replace real intelligence, heart, and composure, and Marcus realized that in that single moment, a bond of mutual respect had formed between the giant and the small, a bond that proved courage and dignity could never be measured by age, size, or background. The mansion felt alive with the weight of the moment as Marcus explained the reasoning behind each careful choice he had made with the breakfast tray, his words deliberate, his confidence unwavering, and Ethan listened intently, realizing that this boy, underestimated by the world, carried wisdom beyond his years and a moral compass stronger than many adults he had met in decades of business. Ethan's usual smirk softened into a genuine smile, rare and revealing, and he admitted that Marcus had done more than complete a task. He had shown insight, courage under observation, and an unwavering heart, proving that character could command more authority than power or fear ever could, and the realization left him both humbled and inspired. Marcus, noticing the shift, felt a warmth of pride not from praise, but from knowing he had remained true to himself, and that every silent, careful step he had taken mattered because it reflected his upbringing, his mother's teaching, and his refusal to let prejudice define him before he even had a chance. The boy spoke one final time, suggesting a small adjustment to the breakfast and explaining it logically, and Ethan froze in admiration, realizing that Marcus had not only passed the test, but improved the situation, showing initiative, foresight, and courage that left the billionaire utterly speechless. That day, Ethan understood a lesson no amount of wealth had taught him, that the smallest people, when armed with dignity, honesty, and bravery, could command more respect than the most powerful giants, and Marcus Young, 10 years old, had proven that heart, intelligence, and courage outshine privilege every single time. As the morning light filtered through the tall windows, Ethan Blackwell offered Marcus a nod of respect, silent yet powerful, and the boy smiled softly, understanding that true victory was measured not in wealth, not in fear, not in intimidation, but in integrity, calm courage, and the ability to stand tall when the world expected you to bow. And if you want to witness the lessons Marcus taught, how courage can freeze even the most confident, and how heart outshines privilege, make sure you subscribe and comment, Heart Wins, to honor the boy who proved that true strength comes from who you are, not what you have.